What's up everyone? Camel has been doing some weird shit with the mergers lately. I'm asking for more clarity regarding the mergers and more information regarding general game schedules to make the game we spent hundreds and thousands on more fun to play. Special thanks to Gambit and Ineox for giving me so much data regarding the mergers. First, we will have a short breakdown of the merger history, and I'll add some general information to that. After that, we will look into what's been wrong lately, and I'll talk about some examples. To top that off, we will go into what we're asking from Camel and what we as a player base can do to make this happen. I'll add timestamps for you guys so you can just watch the parts you're interested in. Anyways, with the switch to the 2-nation mergers only in July 2023, Camel promised more and faster mergers. Sounds nice, right? But let's look into the details. Something's off. You can see a chart showing where and how many mergers there have been throughout the years. You don't need to be a data analyst to see that the number of mergers has been declining year by year. We can say that Camel didn't hold the promise that came with the 2-nation mergers. The cherry on top for 2025 is that the merger in January was announced in 2024 and happened due to Camel's GC debt. So effectively, there's been only one merger in 2025. And the worst part, that merger really sucked. I don't want to insult any nation that got the merger in that go, but the average win rate of all these nations included was below 40%. Besides that, this was the first merger that didn't involve at least one second merger in almost 3 years. That alone isn't really the problem, but the declining number of mergers is alarming. If we look at the older nations, some haven't received any mergers since late 2021 or early mid 2022. That's a very long time and people lose interest in the game. It's almost impossible to keep up motivation and activity for so long. I don't have a solution for them. Because the major problem, classic mergers aren't really an option anymore. Unless all the nations up to the 500s get another merger. Now let's have a look at 2025 again. Since GC has been away for a bit now, a new season must be announced sooner or later. But with Head of State having started recently, we can't have a merger for the next 6 weeks. And the next GC season will most likely start or be announced during that time. So no mergers until GC is over. So now you can see the 3 possible scenarios Gambit came up with. Option 1 says that the next possible merger will be on 1st of August. In option 2, the next possible merger is also on 1st of August, but just for the non-finalists, because the GC season would be during the time of the merger. And option 3, we don't want to talk about that. The first next possible merger option would be the 12th of September. That's almost 4 months. And I don't want to wait that long for my merger. Now getting into the example part. Starting with nation 779, the oldest unmerged nation right now. Interestingly, the next oldest unmerged nation is 880, more than 100 nations apart. 779 has been available since August 2022. The average unlocked nation takes a little less than 21 months to get the first merger, but 779 is already at almost 34 months. Meanwhile, the closest 2 nations to them, 777 and 785, have been merged for over a year. Something similar can be found in also the 700s. Woody's nation, 736, got the first merger on 15th March 2024, but during the same cycle, 734 got the second merger. And in the past year, nothing has changed for 736. And this isn't just a one-off, it has happened multiple times in that range. Maybe not as extreme as with 734 and 736, but the gaps weren't really that big. Now you could say that Camel was profiting enough from these nations for them to stay unmerged. But I don't really think it's about money only, because Nation 219 told me that they got the first merger and second merger when they were spending the most money, and they got them the earliest in the area. Since 219 is a pretty old nation, let's have a look at one of the newer nations. Nation 905, for example. This was the first unlocked nation in the 900s to get a merger on the 12th of April 2024. And guess what? They have a hyper whale. So I wouldn't say Camel isn't profiting enough from them to get merged, but they got merged. So what's up with them? Maybe this is just a one-time thing in that range. But the same thing happened with 904. They got the merger 5 months later, but still pretty early in the 900s. So for example, I'm from 93 and we, almost a year later, don't have our first merger yet. They have 2 hyper whales talking about 904. So they couldn't have spent too few to get merged, and they were spending a shit ton of money to where you could say, oh yeah, they could stay unmerged, but no, they got merged. So now we can say, yeah, those 2 examples were hyper whale nations. So let's look at 1046. 1046 was the first unlocked nation that got the merger in the 1000s range on the 16th of August 2024. And I wouldn't say they were spending too little to be unprofitable, and the nation wasn't also really dead either. So they could have stayed unmerged until at least the 900s are done merging, but somehow they got the merger a lot earlier than most of the other nations in the 900s. So from these examples, I've concluded none of this really makes sense. Especially if I tell you that unmerged nations sometimes have to face merged ones. It's obvious that however good you build your nation, a merged one has always more active players than an unmerged one. Having to make up the gap from farming phases during killing is really tiring sometimes and just destroys the game. The same thing happens between 1-time and 2-times merged nations. I could keep talking about this weird stuff for another 30 minutes and show that this also happened during the second merges, but that would just push the length of the video for no reason. You all get the point anyways. Camel just sucks. Now to the final part. What should we do now? So I would love to reach a point where Camel gives us more information about mergers, is more transparent with game schedules, and keeps their promises about merger frequency, and stops doing just one bad quality merger cycle between GCs. Now in reality, there's not much we can do, besides threatening reduced spending. Since I don't want you guys to stop spending and risk not growing at a certain rate, I suggest we start focusing our nations and spending on just 2 or 3 events and boycott the rest. I say start because if Camel keeps pulling bullshit like this in the future, we might have to reduce our spending to the bare minimum. To top that off, I would like to show you the annual reports of Camel. I will not go into detail with this one, I'll just show you them and the numbers will speak for themselves. For that, I would like to invite you all to our Discord. The link is in the info box. I'll keep you guys updated if our event manager reaches out to me or if we all need to start taking further actions regarding reduced spending. Also, please send your VIP a message with this link and saying you will participate in this, if you're going to participate in this, so they notice that we aren't just a few people. Please also like and comment this video and share it with your friends so the video will get pushed more out into public. This isn't how a game should be ran, especially one we've all spent so much money on.